Hey everyone, it's Joy Lutz from NAWBO National. Thanks for taking a couple minutes to be with us today. This is part of our ongoing Advocacy 101 and Advocacy Day prep series. I'm so grateful to get to talk with so many of you on our calls and webinars and at the chapter events I get to attend, because it reminds me of a lot of things. One of which keeps popping up is that sometimes those of us who live and work in Washington, D.C. kind of speak in our own vernacular. We have a acronym for every government agency and every Capitol Hill committee, which is great for those of us who live and work here. But for those of you who don't, who are off perhaps running your business and other parts of your lives, it can be a little off-putting and even confusing. So the point of today's video is to help just kind of cut away and clarify some of those things. And you'll be talking like a DC insider, I promise you, by the end of a couple of minutes. So the point of today's short video is to talk about who/what is a member of Congress, because we use those terms, again, interchangeably and sometimes confusingly here in Washington, D.C. So let's just break it down really simple and clear. It's not that confusing, I hope you'll find by the end. So the U.S. Congress, as you all know, is the legislative body here in the U.S. It's made up of 535 total members, comprised of two legislative bodies, the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. We'll start with the Senate side because that's a little bit less confusing. The U.S. Senate is comprised of 100 U.S. senators, 2 from each of the 50 states, and their title is irrelevant based on their gender. You call them senator regardless of if they're male or female. So that's the U.S. Senate. When you cross over to the House side of the Capitol, things get a little bit more confusing. So it's technically the U.S. House of Representatives. So if you go to your member of Congress or your U.S. Representative's website, you'll see what I just laid out for you. It's a little bit confusing about their titles. There's 435 men and women on that side of the Capitol who use different titles for themselves based on their own personal preferences. So a lot of people call themselves representative, and of course that's good for a man or a woman, but some members call themselves congressman or congresswoman based on their gender. The easiest way to figure that out is just go to their website and make sure that you're using the same title that they are when you reach out to their office. It'll just make you look like you've done your homework and that you know what you're talking about, and more importantly, who you're talking to by addressing them appropriately. The 435 members of Congress on the House side are determined by congressional districts that shift with each U.S. Census. Now, as you may know, the next U.S. Census is coming up in 2020. For any of you who live in what are known as gerrymandered districts, and I know there are a couple of you out there, this is a big date for you. Just bear in mind that the congressional districts are actually determined in the states by the state legislatures, so those elections are important as well. And we'll go into a whole thing. The gerrymandering U.S. Census thing is a whole other conversation, a whole other video that we'll get to eventually as well. But again, 435 members of the U.S. House, 100 members of the U.S. Census, all coming together to make the U.S. Congress. So like I said, I recommend you going to your member of the Congress's website to figure out what their names are, what their titles are before you address them. How do you do that if you don't know who they are? Simply go to the main website. So we're talking about senate.gov or house.gov. On the senate.gov site, there's a tab towards the very, very top that allows you to select your state and will reveal to you who your 2 U.S. senators are. On the house.gov website, you just enter in your zip code near the top in the tab, and it will generate for you who your member of the House is. So just go to their website and do a little refresh. Again, not just about their title, also look at their biography, their committee assignments, anything that can give you a personal feel for how you might want to talk to the people who are representing you. And now's a really good time for you to think about doing just that little bit of research, because we're coming into March. For any of you who are coming here to the Advocacy Day in June, just about 90 days out is when I recommend you start looking into getting meetings with your members of the House or the Senate for that day. We will have a portion of the Advocacy Day again this year where you're kind of free to go meet with your member of the House or Senate if you would like. So think about, again, what their committee assignments are, what their relevant biography is. Is the person an entrepreneur or a business owner? Do they sit on the House or Senate small business committees? Look for clues like that. Read their press releases if you want to see what issues they really care about and are passionate about. And of course, if you need to, reach out to us at NAWBO National. We're happy to help you kind of discern the best way to pursue them as well. But I do recommend you start reaching out for meetings in March. Don't be offended if you end up getting tasked to meet with a staffer. As a former Hill staffer myself, I can tell you these are very important conduits to your members of Congress. They know what their bosses like, what they need, what their priorities are, and if you make a good impression on them, they'll pass that along to the member of Congress for you, and you'll develop a really great relationship with the staff as well. So think about reaching out to your member of Congress now to arrange a meeting for our June Advocacy Day. And also reach out for congressional and White House tours. Don't be afraid to just call the phone number and ask the staff to recommend tours to you. They can set you up with all kinds of great deals here in Washington, D.C., most of which we're fortunate are free to the public. And even if you're not coming to the Advocacy Day, there's no reason not to reach out and start a relationship. This month for March, we're launching our HR 5050 white paper detailing the Women's Business Ownership Act and the 30th anniversary of it. That's a great thing to talk about, and you'll be getting more and more details on that. You can also talk with your members of Congress about joining the Congressional Micro Business Caucus to represent the really, really small business owners among us who need a big voice in Congress. You can also talk about the Work Flex legislation that we're supporting at NAWBO National, as well as our support for putting a Women's History Museum here in Washington, D.C. I think we all can agree it's time to have that conversation as well. So again, go to US Senate. .gov or house.gov and look up and find out who your members of Congress are and then engage. And as always, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us here at NAWBO National about how to best approach this whenever you're ready to join us for the Advocacy Day or just ready to be a better advocate for your business. Thanks and have a great day.